Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture on general medicine, and today we're going to learn a new topic. I'm going to be referring from the mind maps from this book by medistudygo, which has pictorial representation for all the topics from clinical features to management. Do refer to this book if you want to make your learning easier. Let's get into the lecture for today. So the topic for today is something which we might experience in the form of heartburn. Some patients face that chronically because some issue is present in their esophagus or stomach. Yes, this disease is GERD, which is Gastroesophageal Reflux Disease. Let's get into it. As I always say, we must learn every topic according to its headings. So starting with today's topic, the first heading shall be the definition. So what is GERD? As the term suggests, it is gastroesophageal reflux disease, where a chronic condition, stomach acid flows back into the esophagus, causing various symptoms and potentially leading to complications. So gastroesophageal, meaning gastric, that is stomach, and esophagus is involved. Reflux disease means something is coming back. It should go forward, but it is coming back. So that is GERD, and it can lead to some complications which have severe symptoms to be followed. Now, what is the etiology of GERD? The main etiology is a weak lower esophageal sphincter. Now, what is LES? Now, to know what is lower esophageal sphincter, we have this reference diagram. So this over here is the esophagus and this is the stomach. Now, when the esophagus transforms or enters into the stomach, this is the ending of the esophagus and the starting of the stomach. So here a sphincter is present, which is called as the lower esophageal sphincter because it is lying in the lower end of the esophagus. Now, ideally, this sphincter, it must contract to close this lumen. Like if suppose this is the sphincter, it has to move inwards in order to close the lumen of the esophagus, and then it has to relax to stay opened. But what if the contraction doesn't happen and the sphincter stays open all the time or most of the time? So if the sphincter will stay open and the contraction is not there, the contents which have passed into the stomach, they can go back also. Like the patient might cough or do anything and the food can go back when it is being digested. Ideally, the sphincter should close. So the weak tonicity or weak musculature of this sphincter can lead to a difficulty in closure and therefore reflux of the contents of the gastric system, which are meant to go forward and not backward. This is the main etiology of GERD. Other than this, there can be hiatal hernia, pregnancy, obesity, because in all these cases, some or the other way, the organs are being pushed and the food can come back, and also the sphincter is already weak, so the food is not going as it should into the forward organs. There can be reasons like smoking, alcohol, and spicy foods which irritate the gut. Now, once we know the etiology, what is the pathophysiology of this disease? So there are three main reasons this can happen. First is the defective anti-reflux barrier. Second is defective gastric emptying. And third is delayed esophageal clearance of the refluxed acid. So the first one is the most important, which is anti-reflux barrier is defective. Now, what is anti-reflux barrier? Like when from the esophagus, the food is going into the stomach. Anti-reflux barrier is the lower esophageal sphincter. If this is defective, the food will come back and the acid will come back, and that can lead to GERD. So this is the first and the most common cause of GERD. So the abnormal tone of LES, it causes transient relaxation and reduced tone, which results in regurgitation, especially when the intra-abdominal pressure is increased, as in cases of pregnancy and obesity or after taking spicy food. Second cause can be defective gastric emptying. That is, the food is not going ahead as it should. The food is in the stomach and it is not going into the intestine. When can that happen? Like gastric outlet obstruction. Now we know the closure didn't happen in the place of esophagus and stomach junction. But what if this opening where the food should go into the intestine, this gets obstructed? So the food which had to go down will not, and the food will get collected in the gastric outlet and the gastric part, which is the stomach, and then this can get refluxed more easily. So one thing issue is there, but what if there's an additional issue where the obstruction of gastric outlet is present and the food, instead of going down, gets collected in the stomach and then eventually gets refluxed because more food is present and the gastric emptying is delayed. Next, there can be delayed esophageal clearance of the refluxed acid. Suppose the esophagus is like this. It causes peristalsis to let the food come down. And now if anything comes into the esophagus, it is a normal dynamic of the esophagus to keep contracting. So if the esophagus is normal, it will contract and let that acid go down into the stomach again. But what if this peristalsis is defective and it is not happening? That will cause the acid to stay into the esophagus, which will lead to the symptoms of GERD, like in impaired peristalsis body position. Now another reason is hiatal hernia. Hiatal hernia is what? So near the angle of the esophagus and the stomach, there is a feature known as the angle of His. In some cases, the hernia can happen wherein the esophageatric junction moves through the diaphragm and leads to the loss of this angle of His, which causes an increased exposure of esophagus to the acid. So this increased exposure causes again the symptoms of GERD. So these are the main causes of GERD, which can lead to the reflux of acid or the contents of the stomach into the esophagus, thereby leading to symptoms like heartburn, and can cause chest pain also in some cases, mimicking the chest pain of heart attack. So what are the clinical features when a patient comes to you? The most common and the most reported feature is heartburn. The patient will say, I'm having itching in my chest, I'm not able to sleep, this itching is like if something is coming upwards and I'm not able to rest and I'm not able to breathe fine because this itching is very annoying in nature. Next, the patient can also complain of epigastric pain, which is pain in the stomach region. Now due to the acid which is coming back, this is the stomach, and the acid which is coming back into the esophagus, that makes the patient cough because the patient wants to relieve that itching, but it's not because of something in the respiratory tract, it is something in the food pipe. So the patient tries to cough. There can be nausea and vomiting because if along with acid food also comes back, the food is not going down, so it has to come out. There will be vomiting. And there can be dysphagia and odynophagia. Dysphagia is difficulty in swallowing and odynophagia is pain while swallowing. So both these features can also be present because of the acidic content of the esophagus which has increased. There can be regurgitation, that is an obvious in GERD, and the patient can complain of bloating because the persistent presence of acid in the gastric system, in the stomach and the esophagus, that can cause inflammation and the patient can feel a heaviness in the stomach and complain of bloating. Now, after we've studied the clinical features and the pathophysiology, we need to come towards the investigations to confirm that yes, this patient has GERD. So first and the foremost is endoscopy, wherein we visualize what is going on inside the esophagus and the stomach, and we visualize the sphincter and its tonicity, and we come to a conclusion that yes, the sphincter is weak and GERD is present. We can also do 24 pH monitoring, wherein the pH of the gastric system is checked, and if it stays at a very low point completely throughout, that means the acidic content is high for the patient and therefore acidity is present, which can be related with GERD. So 24 pH monitoring is the gold standard test because that gives a confirmatory diagnosis. Then we can also do upper GI endoscopy and esophageal manometry to see what is happening in the upper GI tract, which is the esophagus part. So what is manometry? It is to measure the pressure with which the esophagus is doing peristalsis. If this is normal, we can rule out one of the factors. Next, we do blood tests like for H. pylori because sometimes infection can be a cause, and we do ECG finally to rule out any heart disease which can be present, and the patient might not be having just GERD and there can be an actual heart defect present. So we can do an ECG to rule out what is going on. After we've come to a diagnosis of GERD, we move towards the treatment. The patient is complaining of heartburn and the patient is complaining of pain. There can be vomiting and nausea also. So what do we do to treat that? The first and the foremost management part is to give the patient some antacids. So we give antacids to neutralize the high acidic content of the gut system at the moment. Then we can give some proton pump inhibitors like pantoprazole, omeprazole and rabeprazole because they block the proton pump which is responsible for the acidic secretion, and that gives relief to the patient. Next, we can use histamine blockers like ranitidine because that also does the same effect and decreases the acid. So the role of treating GERD, the main part is to decrease the acid or to nullify the acid. To nullify the acid, we give antacids, and to decrease the acid, we can give a combination of H2 blockers or proton pump inhibitors. Both of these act on the acid producing cells and they decrease the gastric acid secretion in the gut, therefore decreasing the symptoms of GERD. This is the symptomatic relief which a patient requires immediately. Now, if suppose we have seen that there is some problem in the esophagus and in the sphincter, we need to do surgery where fundoplication and structuroplasty might be required. So fundoplication is something wherein the fundus of the stomach is wrapped around the esophagus. So this is the fundus part of stomach and this is the esophagus. So some part of this is wrapped around so that the lower esophageal sphincter, it get a bit strengthened and it doesn't cause any issues to cause GERD. Also, we can do some structuroplasty where the sphincter itself is treated and a sphincter is created so that the sphincter relaxes and contracts as it is required according to the intake of the food. Now, after this, we need to manage the patient and tell the patient that there is high probability for you to get GERD. So there are some management tips you might include into your lifestyle. First will be weight loss. Second will be diet, because the patient must have less acidic diet because already there is more acid in his system. The elevated head of bed must be present, like you should not lie down immediately after having your meals because that can also cause reflux to happen quickly. You need to quit smoking and alcohol because these are irritants which irritate the mucosa of the esophagus and stomach and thereby decrease the tonicity of any sphincter which is present. So decreasing irritants will also help. Now, what are the complications which can happen when a patient has GERD? The most common complication is a stricture and an ulcer. So stricture is something when some small narrowing has happened in the main lumen, and ulcer is when excess of acid and spicy diet or smoking etc. has formed ulcers which can be painful because of the excess acid which has come back from the stomach. There can be esophagitis, which is inflammation. A common feature which can also be seen in this case in oral cavity is erosion. Because the acid can come back into the oral cavity and the enamel gets eroded, which can lead to dental caries. There can be aspiration pneumonia in case something can be aspirated, and there can be infection present also. Another complication which can happen is Barrett's esophagus. Now, what happens in Barrett's esophagus? Normally, the esophagus contains flat squamous cells because it is a mucosal lining. But due to constant irritation from the acid, these flat cells, they convert into tall columnar cells, and this can eventually lead to esophageal cancer. So therefore, the treatment of GERD is very important because it can lead to some severe complications which can be debilitating for the patient. Now, if you want to revise this topic and come towards a question, I have got a flashcard and an MCQ for you. You can solve many of these flashcards and MCQs on our app by medistudygo. So the first flashcard I have is, how does GERD affect oral health? So as we studied, GERD can cause enamel erosion and thereby causing dental caries, especially on the palatal surface of the maxillary teeth. You can see some flat, shiny surfaces without the caries, of course, but erosion can cause that. So now if we come to solving an MCQ, what is the most common symptom of GERD? Dysphagia, hematemesis, heartburn, or weight loss? So in MCQs, there can be two approaches of solving a question. Either you know the answer directly, but if you don't, you use the rule out mechanism, where you rule out all the options and you see which option is left. That way you will come to your answer. So in this case, which is the most common symptom, it is heartburn, as we've already studied. So you can solve many of these MCQs and flashcards on our app, and you can also use the coins which are available in the app for mind map notes, videos, flashcards, and even for MCQs to be solved. So if you'd like to watch more videos on general medicine and other subjects as well, you must subscribe onto our channel medistudygo, where you're visualizing this video currently. Like this video, do drop a comment below about how you liked it, any queries you have, and we'll be happy to reach out to you. I hope this was helpful. Do subscribe us, and thank you for watching.